What is up, everyone? Corn O'Keefe back yet again. As the title implies, I'm bringing you the power of Jonathan Joestar. However, just in case there are some of you who may not know who Jonathan Joestar is, I'll start off by going over the story of Jonathan Joestar before jumping into his power. So without further ado, let's get down to business. As an infant, Jonathan was involved in a carriage accident, resulting in the death of his mother, Mary Joestar. That same accident indirectly brought Dio Brando into his life, because Jonathan's father, George Joestar, assumed Dio's thieving father saved his life and vowed to repay that debt. 12 years later, Jonathan comes to the aid of a young girl named Arena, who was being bullied by two brats, despite lacking the strength to defend her honor properly. Jonathan would go on to reveal his intentions of becoming a bona fide gentleman, having opted to help her only to pursue that goal. After meeting Dio, Jonathan's life spirals into hell, as Dio attempts to break Jonathan's spirit through dominance and isolation. At that time, Jonathan crosses paths with Arena again. The two become close and eventually fall in love. Dio learns of this and decides to deny Jonathan any chance of romance by forcefully taking Arena's first kiss, instilling deep shame in the girl. After learning of Dio's deed, Jonathan confronts him at the Joestar mansion, where his resolve for Arena's honor and dignity gives him the strength to overpower Dio. Jonathan briefly noticed a stone mask on their wall that was reacting to Dio's blood, but was distracted by his father, who was attempting to stop the fight before it escalated any further. Despite standing up to Dio, Jonathan was unable to find Arena afterwards, while at the same time learning that his beloved dog Danny had died after being quote-unquote accidentally placed in the incinerator. Jonathan suspected Danny's death to be Dio's doing, but Dio noticed the kind of person Jonathan was and decided to make peace between them for the time being. 7 years later, Jonathan attends an academy where he intends to graduate as an archaeologist. During that 7-year span, Jonathan was still wary of Dio despite his facade. When Jonathan's dad, George, fell ill, Jonathan found a letter from Dio's father, Dario, and realized Dio was poisoning his father in order to steal the Joestar fortune. Though he had no physical proof other than Dio's clear animosity towards Dio's own biological father, Jonathan left his own father in the care of physicians while attempting to find an antidote. Jonathan's search takes him to Ogre Street, where he manages to win over the friendship of a local thug named Robert E.O. Speedwagon, who had attempted to mug him before realizing the kind of person Jonathan was. With the help of Speedwagon, Jonathan finds Dio's poison supplier, Wang Chan, and obtains the antidote for his father. Dio arrives at the estate and sees Jonathan, Speedwagon, and George, along with constables, to take him away for attempted murder. Dio, having learned the secret of the stone mask, attempts to kill Jonathan and use his blood to transcend humanity to become an immortal vampire. George ends up taking the stab wound that was meant for Jonathan, prompting the constables to open fire on Dio, supposedly killing him. As Jonathan shows a passionate expression of grief and sorrow, Dio is revealed to be alive, and uses his new vampire state to easily incapacitate Speedwagon and slaughter the constables. Noting Dio's newly gained regeneration, Jonathan is forced to set fire to his home, in hopes that the heat would kill Dio. After a long struggle, Jonathan plummets Dio into the inferno and impales him on a statue, effectively trapping him in the burning building. As Dio curses him, Jonathan is blasted outside of the mansion by an explosion, and remains alive despite having burns and injuries. Speedwagon manages to take Jonathan to a hospital, where the protagonist ends up seeing Arena for the first time in 7 years. Despite Dio's action in the past, it did not change Arena's feelings for Jonathan, as she nursed him back to health. After being discharged from the hospital a few days later, Jonathan meets Will Zeffoli, an Italian martial artist. After completely healing Jonathan's body, Will reveals that Dio survived the mansion burning and offers to teach Jonathan to utilize a respiratory-based solar energy called Ripple in order to defeat Dio and destroy the stone mask. During his time of training, Jonathan defeats a zombified Wang Chan with his new Zoom Punch technique. Jonathan later learns from Speedwagon that Dio had apparently set up a base at Win Knight's lot, resulting in the disappearance of several of the citizens. Drawing near to the village, the group is attacked by a newly zombified Jack the Ripper sent by Dio. Will offers the zombies defeat as a first test for Jonathan, giving him a glass of wine and ordering him to defeat Jack without spilling a drop, before defeating him by transmitting Ripple through the wall. Once at Win Knight's lot, Jonathan and his group are unknowingly led by a hypnotized boy to a graveyard where Dio's large number of minions ambush them the moment night falls. Dio reveals at that time, having learned of the Ripple fighting style, and uses his Flash Freeze ability to render bare-handed attacks with Ripple useless. Dio then reveals his strongest zombie warriors, the Knights of Bruford and Tarkus. Bruford senses Jonathan's fighting nobility, requesting Dio to let him fight the human in a one-on-one duel. Taking their battle underwater, Jonathan is at a disadvantage as he is unable to maintain proper breathing, and thus is unable to use Ripple. Recalling a lesson from his late father, Jonathan dives deeper into the water, where he finds air bubbles trapped underneath rocks. Using these to breathe, Jonathan is able to generate enough Ripple to force Bruford out of the water. Bruford tries to finish off Jonathan, but Jonathan channels Ripple through the zombie's sword to literally disarm him before unleashing a flurry of sunlight yellow overdrive punches. As Bruford breaks down, he regains his human soul, and in respect for Jonathan, leaves him his sword. After experiencing the power of Tarkus, Jonathan and company decide to retreat into a canyon on a leaf-based hang glider that Jonathan and Will magnetize with Ripple. Landing within an ancient knight's battleground, Tarkus ambushes the group and manages to trap Jonathan in the lair of the two-headed dragon, forcing him into a chain neck deathmatch. Jonathan is nearly killed by the more experienced fighter, but is briefly saved by Will, who ends up sacrificing himself. It is only after the dying Will infuses Jonathan with his remaining Ripple that the youth revives with strength necessary to defeat Tarkus. Soon after meeting the Ripple Masters Tom Petty, Strazo, and Dyer is killed by Dio's freezing powers. Jonathan gets the idea to counter Dio's freezing by channeling his Ripple through Bruford's sword. Dio, livid after Dyer's last attack, summons his zombies to take care of the others, while he deals with Jonathan one-on-one. Jonathan lands a couple of sword attacks on Dio, but he survives them with his inhuman powers. Jonathan is able to land a sunlight yellow overdrive on Dio, but he quickly puts himself together. Dio grabs hold of Jonathan's artery, but Jonathan is able to escape and the two clash one last time. Jonathan set his fist on fire to remove Dio's advantage, and land a Ripple-infused punch into Dio's stomach, while sending him plummeting off the edge of the balcony. Believing Dio is dead along with most of his minions, Jonathan's group destroy the stone mask. 2 weeks after the Win Knight's lot incident, Jonathan marries Arena, and the two board a ship heading to America for a honeymoon. During the trip, Jonathan is led to the ship's hull by Wang Chan, where he encounters a bodiless Dio. Dio reached an epiphany that their fates were deeply woven together, motivating him to take the Joestar's body for his own. Dio then shoots beams of pressurized eye fluid at Jonathan's throat in an attempt to instantly kill him, but the attack only fatally wounds Jonathan, with his stopped breathing preventing him from using his ripple. Regardless, Dio orders Wang Chan to rip off Jonathan's head, while warning him to be both respectful and wary of his new body. Using the last of his ripple, Jonathan destroys Wang Chan's head and manipulates his body to obstruct a piece of the cruise ship's mechanism. Jonathan intended this to cause an explosion that would sink the ship and hopefully put an end to Dio for good. While Irina was content to die with him in his final moments, Jonathan beseeches her to escape with an infant, whose mother died protecting her from the zombies that Wang Chan sent. Dio makes a last-ditch attempt to take Jonathan's body at that time, only to be stabbed and restrained by Jonathan, who felt at peace in his final moments. Dio attempts to convince Jonathan to let him go, with promise of immortality, only to learn that he had already died before the two were consumed in the inferno caused by the ship's explosion. With Jonathan's death, the Joestar family survived through Irina and their unborn son. And folks, that is the story of Jonathan Joestar. Now it's time to talk about stats, starting with attack power. Well, for starters, we know Jonathan showcased that he's powerful enough to defeat Jack the Ripper, the same Jack the Ripper who managed to collapse a massive tunnel by throwing a horse carriage along the walls. Impressive, considering this feat has been calculated to require a little over 62 tons of TNT, which is essentially enough TNT to destroy a city block. And a link to that calculation will be in the description below if you're interested in checking it out for yourselves. Jonathan would later go on to defeat Bruford, aka one of Dio's strongest zombies, which makes him more powerful than Jack the Ripper and any feat he performed. After this is when we see Will sacrifice himself in order to save Jonathan. Jonathan would absorb Will's energy and became powerful enough to easily defeat Tarkus, the same Tarkus who demonstrated that he's powerful enough to casually shatter a large boulder that Jonathan was standing on when they first met, which has been calculated to require a little over 13 tons of TNT, which is also enough TNT to destroy a city block. Tarkus performed this feat with no effort and is also more powerful than any other zombie that Jonathan fought before him, which does include Jack the Ripper. And yet, here we have Jonathan, after absorbing Will's energy, showcasing that he's powerful enough to easily defeat Tarkus. Heck, Jonathan rips apart a metal collar that Tarkus himself couldn't even break. Jonathan would go on to bisect and ultimately defeat Dio. Dio, during this time in Part 1, being stronger than his Part 3 self before absorbing Joseph's blood. Dio in Part 3, before absorbing Joseph's blood, being powerful enough to casually deflect Hierophant Green's Emerald Splash, which was capable of somewhat damaging Star Platinum. Dio, before absorbing Joseph's blood, also proved himself to be durable enough to take attacks from Star Platinum. Star Platinum in Part 3 being stronger than his Part 4 self. Star Platinum in Part 4 being stated on more than one occasion to be the strongest stand, which makes him more powerful than Red Hot Chili Pepper after Red Hot Chili Pepper absorbed the electricity. Red Hot Chili Pepper, after absorbing this electricity, became powerful enough to exert around 427 kilotons of TNT, which is enough TNT to destroy a large town. Star Platinum is also at the very least comparable, if not stronger than stands like Gold Experience, who is powerful enough to crack White Album's armor. White Album being capable of freezing an entire sea, which would require a little over 1 megaton of TNT, which is enough TNT to destroy a small city. Now, as far as speed goes, well, even before absorbing Will's energy, Jonathan was comparable to Will himself in terms of speed. and was fast enough to intercept one of Dio's casual attacks. Even Dio's casual attacks can reach massively hypersonic speed. After Jonathan absorbed Will's energy, he became fast enough to react to Dio's Space Ripper stingy eyes, which are fast enough to reach dense clouds and cut through them within seconds, which has been calculated to be around 28% the speed of light, aka relativistic to the speed of light. And I will leave a link down below if you're interested in checking that calculation out for yourselves. However, there's more to Jonathan than just his power and speed. You see, thanks to possessing Ripple, also known as Hormone, Jonathan is capable of utilizing some very useful abilities. He can actually transfer Ripple into other objects and people. This can be used to harm any opponent who is weak to sunlight through contact of any living or non-living thing charged with Ripple. Ripple can also be used to create a thin shield around the user to protect them from attacks. Jonathan can also use Ripple to heal himself and others, even being able to heal a broken neck. Ripple can also be used to purify opponents, as shown when Jonathan purified Bruford from Dio's possession and turned him back into a human. Ripple can even be used to allow the user to walk on water. Now, Jonathan has actually shown some resistance to poison, as he's been seen ejecting poisons out of his body. So, with all of this being said, how powerful is Jonathan Joestar from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Well, it's honestly clear to see, even before absorbing Will's energy, Jonathan should easily be around the city block ranges in terms of his attack power and durability. And he would easily have massively hypersonic reaction time and combat speed. After absorbing Will's energy, it's safe to say he's anywhere from large town up to the small city level ranges in terms of his attack power and durability. And he can easily be seen as being around 28% the speed of light, aka relativistic to the speed of light in terms of his reaction time and combat speed. Overall, it's very clear to see that Jonathan Joestar is an absolute badass and a true gentleman who should not be underestimated whatsoever. But let me know what you all think down below. And before I go, I would like to give a big shout out and thanks to my friend Stealth for providing some extra info for the video, as well as providing some of the calculations. Thank you, Stealth. I really appreciate all of your help, dude. But as always, have a blessed day, folks. Peace.